Have you ever looked at your child, your own flesh and blood, and wondered, why don't they see everything I've done for them? You raised them, sacrificed so much, stayed up countless nights when they were sick, worried when they were late coming home, and even now, you probably still think about their well-being more than your own. Yet today, they barely call, rarely visit, or maybe speak to you with impatience, as if you're a burden, not the parent who once held their world together. If this sounds like your story, you're not alone. Many parents, especially in later stages of life, carry this quiet ache, an ache that comes not from a single moment, but from a slow realization that the love you gave so freely is no longer returned in the way you hoped. It's not about wanting grand gestures or fancy gifts. Sometimes all you wish for is a simple call, a thank you, or just a moment where your child sees you, not just as mom or dad, but as a person with feelings, memories, and needs of your own. This pain of feeling ignored or unappreciated can wear down even the strongest heart, and the silence, oh, that silence, can be louder than any argument. But here's the truth. The deeper hurt doesn't come just from what your child is doing or not doing. Number one, it comes from the storm of feelings it triggers inside you. Resentment, sadness, guilt, maybe even shame. That's where today's conversation begins. Because no matter what your child does or doesn't do, you deserve peace. You deserve to wake up in the morning without that heaviness in your chest. You deserve to smile again, not because they finally said the right words, but because you've remembered your worth, with or without their validation. We're going to talk about 7 powerful lessons that can help you rebuild your emotional strength. These lessons aren't just ideas. They are practical tools that many parents have used to let go of pain and reconnect with life, even when their relationships with their children are difficult. Let's talk heart to heart. You've given so much. Now it's time to give something back to yourself. Let's begin by talking about something that poisons our peace without us even realizing it: expectations. You see, when you give years of your life to someone, especially a child, it's only natural to expect something in return. Maybe it's respect, gratitude, a visit every weekend, a phone call once in a while. After all, you were there for them every single day when they were young. Is it too much to ask for them to show that they care now? But here's the hard part. These expectations, especially the ones we never say out loud, have a sneaky way of turning into silent demands. And when they're met, we don't just feel disappointed. We feel rejected, disrespected, invisible. It feels like all those sacrifices you made, staying up late to help with homework, putting their needs above your own dreams, were all for nothing. There's a story of a mother named Maria. She raised her son with everything she had. Her dream was simple: that one day he'd visit on Sundays, maybe bring his kids over for dinner, talk to her like he used to. But as the years passed, her son got busy. He had his career, his own family, his own worries. The visits stopped, the calls became brief, and Maria felt that ache grow into bitterness. But something shifted when Maria read a teaching from biblical wisdom. It said, if you want to be invincible, don't fight what depends on others. And that's when it clicked. Her pain didn't come from her son's life choices. It came from her hope that he would live her version of his life. The expectations had become a cage, and she was holding the key the whole time. Letting go of expectations doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you love more freely, without needing your child to perform a role in return. You still wish them well, you still feel proud, but you stop handing them the power to decide whether you're allowed to feel happy or not. When Maria finally stopped waiting for that perfect visit, she started living again. She joined a walking group, made friends her age, and took up painting, a dream she'd put on hold for decades. Her heart softened, and, interestingly, her son started calling more often, not because she asked him to, but because the pressure had lifted, the guilt had gone, the space was open again. So here's the first key. If your heart is hurting because your child doesn't respond the way you hoped, take a moment. Ask yourself gently, am I grieving my child, or the version of them I created in my mind? If it's the second, that's where your healing begins. Number 2. Let's talk about another quiet trap that's easy to fall into. Emotional debt. As parents, especially mothers, we pour ourselves into our children, and we often do it with the best intentions, never asking for anything in return. But somewhere deep down, there's often a hidden whisper. One day, they'll take care of me. They'll be there. They'll give back. And when that doesn't happen, when they seem distant or distracted, what rises isn't just sadness. It's a sense of betrayal, as if they've broken an unspoken deal we didn't even realize we made. There's a woman named Rosa who gave everything for her children. She cooked, cleaned, stayed by their side through every heartbreak and challenge. Her eldest son, Pedro, was the apple of her eye. She imagined that one day he'd come back with his children, let her be part of their lives. But Pedro had other plans. He moved far away, started a new life, and Rosa felt left behind. Every time he didn't call, her heart cracked a little more. And then the next time he did call, her voice was heavy with hidden guilt trips. It's okay. I understand you're too busy. But what Pedro heard wasn't understanding. He heard guilt, pressure, obligation, and it pushed him further away. That's what emotional debt does. It turns love into a transaction. It shifts the relationship from a place of freedom to one of burden, and no one, no matter how loving, wants to feel like they're repaying a loan that they never agreed to. God reminds us, love is only true when it is given freely, without expecting something in return. He said, do good willingly and without expectation of reward, and that's the kind of love that actually lasts. It doesn't mean your pain isn't real. Of course it is. You've given your life to someone. You're allowed to feel hurt, but you also deserve to set yourself free. Number 3, because when you love without strings, you give your child something even more powerful than duty. A chance to love you back on their own terms, not out of guilt or expectation, but out of genuine connection. You chose to be the kind of parent who gave everything. That choice came from your strength, not weakness, and your love doesn't need repayment to be meaningful. When you let go of emotional debt, you also let go of resentment, and that's the beginning of healing for you both. Now that we've explored how expectations and emotional debts can quietly shape our pain, let's gently move into another part of this journey, one that many of us don't even realize we're missing. We've just talked about expectations and emotional debts, the invisible weights that sit heavily on the heart, especially for parents who've given everything. But even when you begin to loosen those burdens, there's another challenge waiting quietly in the background. It's something that many loving parents never think about, and yet it holds the power to either protect your peace or invite pain again and again. That challenge is the absence of boundaries. Now, I know when you hear the word boundaries, it might sound cold, almost like you're building a wall between you and your child. But in reality, boundaries are the opposite. They don't push people away. They help preserve the love that's already there. And for parents, especially those of us who have spent decades giving, helping, sacrificing, it's easy to forget that love without limits can slowly turn into resentment. You see, when your child was little, it was natural to give everything. You were their world. You fed them, clothed them, protected them from harm. You probably gave up sleep time, even your own dreams, just to make sure they had what they needed. That kind of love doesn't come with rules. It flows instinctively. But as your child grows into an adult, the relationship needs to grow too. And part of that growth is learning when to say, I'm here for you, but I have needs too. Because when you always say yes, when you give and never ask for anything in return, the unspoken message is this: my time, my energy, my peace, it's always available. No need to ask, no need to consider me. There's a story that comes to mind about a woman named Carmen. She adored her son and would do anything for him. Need money? She sent it. Need a ride at midnight? She was already in the car. Need help with the kids? She'd cancel her plans in a heartbeat. But over time, her son stopped asking if she could help and started assuming she would. He stopped thanking her. And when she finally said no one day because she was tired and unwell, he got upset, offended even. That's the danger of a relationship without boundaries. When you're always available, people start to believe that your help is a guarantee. They forget it's a gift, and when that gift disappears, they feel entitled to it. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can love deeply and still say, not today. You can be generous and still say, I need rest. In fact, by doing so, you're not just protecting yourself. You're teaching your child how to appreciate you. In God's design, there's a deep respect for self-governance, the ability to manage your own emotions, energy, and choices. God said, love everyone, but trust only the few who deserve it, and that applies even to our own children. Trust isn't just about honesty. It's about knowing that your time and heart won't be taken for granted. So, how do you begin to set boundaries, especially if you've never done it before? Not with anger, not with guilt, but with truth. You can say something like, I love being there for you, but sometimes I need to take care of myself too. You don't have to explain your every reason. You don't need permission to rest. You simply deserve it. And when your child sees that your love comes from strength, not exhaustion, they may learn to love you better too. But even as you set those boundaries, there's another voice that may echo inside you. It's the voice that says, but I've done so much. Don't I deserve to be recognized? Let's be honest. One of the deepest wounds for a parent is not just being ignored, but feeling unseen. After everything you've done, every sacrifice, every effort, you long for that moment when your child simply says, thank you, a hug, a kind word, a look in the eyes that says, I remember what you did for me. And when that moment never comes, it's hard not to feel invisible. Number 4. This is where biblical wisdom offers a powerful reminder. Not everyone can give you what you're hoping for, not because they don't care, but because they're not in the place to see it yet. Sometimes they're too busy, too overwhelmed, or too caught up in their own lives to notice the quiet strength you bring. Other times, they've come to expect your love so much that it no longer stands out. There's a woman named Teresa who spent years supporting her daughter, Sarah. She paid for college, watched the grandkids, ran errands at a moment's notice, and yet not once did she hear the words she longed for. No, thank you, Mom. No, I don't know what I'd do without you. Just more needs, more requests. Eventually, Teresa stopped feeling helpful. She felt used, erased. But one day, she read a line from biblical wisdom. Don't demand that things happen as you wish. Wish that they happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. And she began to see things differently. Her daughter wasn't cruel, just unaware. And that awareness wasn't something Teresa could force. So, she stopped asking, even silently. She reminded herself, what I've done is still valuable, even if it goes unnoticed. That's what inner peace looks like. It's the moment you stop waiting for someone else to validate your worth. It's when you say, I know who I am, and what I've done is enough. Not because someone said it, but because you've seen it with your own eyes. And here's the beautiful thing. When you stop reaching outward for recognition, something shifts. You walk lighter, you speak freer, and sometimes, just sometimes, your child starts to notice. Maybe they don't say thank you right away, but if their tone softens, they linger longer on the phone. They ask how you are. It may not look like the recognition you imagined, but when it comes from a place of freedom, not pressure, it's real, and that's worth more than any forced apology. So, if you're watching this, wondering if your efforts will ever be seen, know this. You don't need their praise to prove your value. You are enough as you are, not because someone else says so, but because your life, your love, and your choices already speak for themselves. Now, take a deep breath. Feel that truth settle into your chest, because the next step, perhaps the most liberating one yet, is about reclaiming something many of us accidentally gave away long ago. There's something powerful that happens when you stop waiting for others to see your worth, and you begin to see it for yourself. And when that inner shift begins, when you no longer tie your peace to someone else's behavior, you start to rediscover a strength you may have forgotten was always there. Emotional independence. Now, emotional independence isn't about shutting down your heart. It's not pretending you don't care or deciding to cut your children off because they've hurt you. No, it's far more compassionate and freeing than that. Emotional independence means this: I can still love you, but my happiness doesn't depend on what you do or don't give me. It's the ability to say, I hope you'll treat me with kindness, but if you don't, I still choose peace. Too often, as parents, we place our emotional well-being in our children's hands without realizing it. If they call, we're happy. If they forget, we feel forgotten. If they visit, we're overjoyed. If they don't, we feel abandoned. Our hearts ride the roller coaster of their behavior, and that's a painful ride to be on. The Bible has a saying, no one is free who is not master of themselves. That means you can't be emotionally free if someone else's actions control your inner state. Let's be honest. This can be hard, especially when that someone else is your child. You love them more than anything. You've shared a bond from the day they were born. But even that deep love doesn't mean you have to surrender your peace to their every mood, mistake, or absence. There's a man named Peter who struggled with this. His daughter had become distant in her 30s, always busy, rarely calling unless she needed something. At first, he told himself she was just stressed. Then he blamed himself. Maybe he hadn't been a good enough father. Maybe this was his punishment. But after years of heartache, Peter sat quietly one afternoon and asked himself, what if I stopped waiting? Not stopped loving, but stopped needing her love to show up in a certain way. Number 5. He began focusing on what he could control. His garden, his daily walks, the books he'd always meant to read. Slowly, he stopped checking his phone every hour. He stopped tying his mood to her text. And do you know what happened? His peace returned. He started smiling again, laughing. And one day, his daughter noticed. She said, Dad, you seem different lately. He just smiled and said, I remembered who I was. That's what emotional independence gives you. The ability to reclaim your life from the hands of others. Not because you stopped loving them, but because you finally started loving yourself too. This doesn't mean you won't feel hurt. What? You're still human, you're still a parent, but it means that your pain doesn't get the final say. Your joy doesn't disappear just because someone didn't say what you hoped to hear. You begin to build a world of inner steadiness where your emotional home belongs to you, not anyone else. A beautiful practice, the Bible teaches, is to live in the present. To stop waiting for the call that hasn't come. To stop replaying the memory that broke your heart. And instead to look around and ask, what in this moment brings me peace? Maybe it's the soft breeze from your window, the sound of birds outside, the cup of tea you sip slowly with both hands. These small moments are life itself, and if you anchor your joy in them, you're no longer at the mercy of anyone else. It's not about giving up on your child. It's about giving yourself back to yourself. And yet, even as we practice emotional independence, there is one lesson that may be the hardest of all, but it is also the most freeing, and that's the art of acceptance. You've likely heard this phrase before, accept what you cannot change. But what does that really mean for a parent? It means accepting that your child is their own person. They will make choices you may not agree with. They may live in a way that feels foreign, even disappointing to you. They may not call as often as you'd like, or express love in the language you understand. They may hurt you unintentionally or even intentionally, and you You cannot control that. You can guide, suggest, love, hope, but you cannot make them be who you imagine they would be. And the more you try to force life into your picture frame, the more pain you invite in. Acceptance is not giving up. It's not saying, well, I guess I don't matter. Quite the opposite, it's saying, I matter too much to keep fighting a losing battle. It's recognizing that your child's choices belong to them, that their actions are not a reflection of your worth, and that the only life you can truly shape is your own. There's a practice from the Bible called Premeditation malorum, the reflection on things that might go wrong. It might sound depressing, but it's actually a path to freedom. By imagining the possibility that your child may never change, that they may never apologize, that they may never say thank you, you begin to free yourself from the trap of endless hoping. Because once you've accepted the worst, everything else is a bonus. And here's something surprising. When you let go of resistance, sometimes relationships begin to soften. Not because you pushed harder, but because your inner peace allowed space for something new to grow. Like letting go of the rope in a tug of war, the tension disappears. Acceptance is not weakness. It is strength, the kind that holds your hand when no one else does. And finally, as we reach this final turning point together, I want to offer you the most powerful choice you can make, not just as a parent but as a person. Choose serenity over resentment. I know what you might be thinking. How can I feel peaceful when I've been hurt, when I've given everything, and gotten so little in return? And you're right to ask that. Resentment often feels like a shield, like a way to protect ourselves from more pain. But here's the truth. Resentment doesn't protect you. It poisons you. It eats your joy, your sleep, your laughter. It makes you relive the same wound again and again. You deserve better than that. The Bible teaches us that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. God said, choose not to be harmed, and you won't be. Meaning others may disappoint you, but it's your interpretation, your story about the event, that determines whether it becomes suffering. So, what if just for today, you let go of the story that says, they owe me? What if you replace it with, I choose peace anyway? That doesn't mean the relationship doesn't matter. It means you matter more than the pain. It means you are finally choosing to live, not in waiting, not in frustration, but in calm, grounded dignity.